Welcome to In Good Company, where relationships drive results, with your host, Lisa Kilray. In each episode, we explore how great leaders build trust, inspire teams, and turn meaningful connections into real success.
Today's episode is sponsored by WSI eResults. At WSI, we help manufacturers and B2B organizations build the strategic foundation they need for AI-driven growth. Our work spans digital strategy, SEO, content development, and multi-channel digital programs designed to drive measurable bottom-line results. A recent client of ours told us, "I'm so glad we started with you when we did." And the reason why they said that is because we built the right digital foundation early. They are now being discovered across AI search platforms and attracting high-value buyers globally for their multi-million-dollar pieces of equipment. To learn more about WSI, visit www.wsi-manufacturing-marketing.com. Today's conversation explores something that sits at the intersection of creativity, business, and collaboration. Architecture and design projects bring together many different professionals: architects, designers, builders, developers, and suppliers. Behind every successful project is a network of relationships that makes the vision possible. Today, I'm joined by Baran Mutlu. Baran is the Director of Sales with AKDO, a global supplier of luxury natural stone, tile, and surface materials used in residential and commercial design projects. A graduate of Babson College with a background in marketing and entrepreneurship, Baran brings an international perspective to connecting innovative materials with architects, designers, and builders around the world. Baran, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Lisa.
No problem. It's great to have you today. So, Baran, I always like to start with the person behind the title. When you look back on your career so far, what are some of the people who had the biggest influence on the direction you took? Was there a mentor or relationship early on that helped shape how you approach business today?
Well, I would say probably two people played a key role to becoming who I am today. On the professional side, I would say my uncle Haki. I work in a family business, so he's the owner of our company as well. And on my family side too, at a young age, I learned the importance of hard work, earning your money, and thriving for success. So on my professional life, obviously my uncle played a pivotal role in teaching me and showing me the ropes. Now, in my personal life, I would say probably my wife was the person who helped me bring stability to my life and, told me what to do, what not to do in certain situations. So like her guidance helped me a lot on the professional side of things. But that's also important too, because at any business day to day, we deal with people. We talk to people, we work with people. So it's important that not to look at everything in a work-related perspective, but also try to understand the other person's struggles, frustrations, and so that as a manager, you can find solutions for those. So I would say both those people were very helpful.
That's awesome.
My success, yes.
I liked your two-pronged answer, and I think the second one, if your wife happens to listen to the episode, is going to bode well for you. So
I hope so.
Right. So obviously, I mean, your uncle has been involved in the business. What originally drew you towards working in the design and materials industry, besides that it was a family business? Because you obviously had an option to not go down that path.
Well, my uncle started this business from scratch, and I joined the company in 2013 after I graduated from college. But prior to that, I was always doing internships here during summers. So that gave me an idea of like what to expect. And really what struck me is that like he's a great entrepreneur and I have that drive as well, the entrepreneurship, like growing something. Granted, when I started working here, the business was already there, so it wasn't a startup anymore. But I could see the potential where I can get involved to take this business to the next level. So that really gave me a lot of excitement, and also I was always interested in. I always like to work with higher end materials, no matter what the industry is. So I always had that was my goal. Even if I didn't work at the family business, I would want to work for a company that does medium to high end products or services. So I think my interests and the company's interests aligned, which
Awesome.
got me here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm familiar with your products. We worked with, and they're beautiful and they are high end. We worked with several years ago a multi-unit flooring and design company.
Mm-hmm.
And your products were one of the products that they
Thank you.
offered. So beautiful, beautiful product. So the architecture and design world seems incredibly relationship driven. I mean, you can't have AI doing all the design work. There needs to be a person in the loop. From your perspective, how important are relationships when architects and designers choose partners and suppliers for their projects?
I mean, I would say that's the most important. That's the key thing for any company's success, is the relationships and is the network and how you nourish those relationships as well. Because in today's world, there's competition everywhere, no matter where you go, what industry you are, there's always competition, whether it's between the suppliers, projects, architects, designers. So what really gives you the competitive advantage as a company is your relationship with the suppliers, your relationship with the architects. So on the supplier end of it, where relationship plays a crucial role is that, let's say you have an order that you need to be rushed and you need to call in some favors. So obviously, if you have a great relationship with them, then they're gonna help you out in sticky situations. Also on the architect and design side, we do large commercial projects, so that the relationship comes into play, where to be able to get spec'd in those projects, to be able to have your designer and architect back you in terms of protecting your product that is spec'd in those projects. And also, it's a mutual relationship. So it's, like the old saying, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. So, we always try to help and assist our suppliers, vendors, the designers, architects we work with, whenever they need a favor from us. And then in return, whenever we need a favor, they always help us out too. So it's not necessarily like I give you this, you give me that type of relationship, but it's more so it's organic, like it doesn't have to be, oh, I did you this favor, do me a favor. No, it's not like that. It's really organic. I mean, I could do 5 favors to someone in a year, and then maybe it takes another couple of years for me to reach out to them for something. So, but because the relationship is there, the trust is there, the honesty is there, we know that whenever we call someone, they're going to be there for us, and then we're going to be there for them.
Awesome. So that sounds like, I mean, this is a good segue. So have you seen a particular situation where the trust between partners really makes a difference in the success of the project?
We could say more like, I would probably say on the supplier and vendor side that we work with. Obviously, we work with a lot of companies across the world. And in order to become a leader in the industry in terms of design and products, you have to have certain products before everybody else does.
Right.
So with a lot of our vendors we work with, and we also own our own factories, so we design our own products too. But with some of the products, we buy them from other factories. So our relationships plays a key role in here for us to be able to get the exclusivity on certain products that are not out there yet. So we go there, we visit them, they visit us, and then they always show us what new products they're coming up with before the trade shows, before it's out there. So that gives us the competitive advantage of coming up with something that no one else knows about it yet.
Right. So let's talk a bit about AKDO for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
For listeners who may not be familiar with the company, how do you describe what AKDO does and the role it plays in the design ecosystem?
Well, we are a leading design and wholesaler for medium to high-end floor and wall coverings. We own 2 factories where we pretty much manufacture all of our stone mosaics and some of our tiles, but we also work with very well-known companies across the world to procure some of our other products like porcelain tiles, ceramic tiles, and we really focus on coming up with new products, new designs with cutting edge technology, and leading the design industry in our area.
Okay. Are you mainly commercial or residential? Or are you a pretty even split?
We do both. We are more mainly a residential driven company, but we have been growing on the commercial scene in the last 10 years. And we do work with around 200 showrooms across the nation, which I'm proud to call them our partners. And that through them, we reach out to the homeowners, designers for their projects. And on the commercial side, we have our own commercial team that goes after large commercial projects like hotels, high risers, even in the US and across the world.
Cool. So many people may not realize how much the choice of materials shapes the experience of a space. From your perspective, what role do natural materials like stone and tile play in architectural design?
Well, being a natural stone company, my number one choice will always be natural stone because the beauty of it is forever and it's unique. Each natural stone is unique. Each slab, each tile, each mosaic, that's unique, because it comes from Mother Earth, and that there's no alike, no other that looks the same. So I think just the infinite beauty of it is very important. But we also understand that in the market conditions, people may have different needs for different application areas, different uses. So that's why we also want to provide other man-made materials that's still, again, up there in terms of design and beauty, but for different types of projects.
Right. So you mentioned AKDO works with designers and architects globally. Are there trends you're seeing and how materials are being used today? Or is the natural stone something that's really been around forever and probably is going to remain?
Yes, that's definitely going to remain. I see a little bit of a different trends in the US market versus the European market. In the European market, we see that customers are moving towards more and more large format tiles, whether residential or commercial projects. Whereas in the US, it's there, but it's still more smaller size tiles. US market, for the last decade or two, whites and grays was the most popular colors, but now we're seeing more trends in colors like some greens, blues, pink, beige, and earthy tones are becoming popular again. So that's always refreshing for someone who's been in this industry pretty much forever. Also including our business partners. Whenever I visit some of our showrooms that we work with, everybody's excited that there's some color coming back because they all used to working with whites and gray. So
Right.
it's refreshing to get a change.
I live the white and gray world, so I can appreciate that trend that's now coming out. I'll be ready for it when we make that change.
Yeah.
So, and when designers are selecting materials for a project, what factors tend to matter most beyond aesthetics?
Obviously, like other than the aesthetics, it really depends on the project. It really depends on the budget they are working with the client. But overall, what I can see is that all the designers, all the architects, they're always looking to find someone unique enough and let's say cool enough that can fit that budget. So that's always a challenge because they always want to leave a statement. They always want to make the area look very appealing. But each project has a budget. So it's always the challenge for them is that always finding the right product for the right project. And that's where we come into play. Like we always help them. We have over 1,000 different products that can basically fit any type of project.
Well, I can appreciate budget constraints. So everybody's got them no matter what their budget is, for the most part.
Yeah.
So because you work in such a relationship-centered industry, I'm curious about the leadership side of things. What qualities do you most admire in the leaders you've worked with throughout your career?
I would say honesty. For previously from my managers or the people I would look up as a mentor or a leader, I would love to get their honest opinion if I'm doing something wrong or if I'm not doing enough or whatever it is, good or bad. I would love to hear that because I always personally always constantly look to improve myself. Like I'm try to be well aware of my shortcomings and improve on them and also focus on my strengths and then go even further with those. So I would say honesty is a very important aspect, and also I always admire, and that's how I want to do, is that as a leader, you always have to find people who can replace you. You always have to find those people who can replace you in the future. Because at the end of the day, the goal is the same. We want to succeed. We want the company to succeed, and in order to do that, you need to work with the people and then find those people who has the potential to replace you down the road. Train those and work with them to replace you in the future.
Right. I think that's a really powerful statement because it goes back to that very old statement that everyone's replaceable. So
Yes.
you got to find that person who's going to replace you or somebody critical on your team.
Yeah.
So have you learned any lessons about business relationships the hard way?
Oh, yeah, plenty of time. So, when I was a territory account manager in the Midwest, when I first started, it was my first role as a sales, and I was visiting our showrooms that we work with, and the goal is to always improve sales, improve volume. And initially, I was always not, I don't want to say scared, but I always wanted to like agree with them. Because I thought that being nice and, answering all their questions or helping them out every single time would, bring more sales to me. To a certain extent, yes, obviously you have to have a good relationship with it. But at the same time, as a salesperson, when you need to know when you need to push the envelope as well. Because at the end of the day, this is a business relationship. All these service, everything we're providing is we also want to see growth. We also want to grow with our business partners. So there's been a couple instances where I thought that like I was going to get a big project out of it by going the extra mile, running the extra mile, and not been able to get it. So the excitement gets high, especially when it's a big project, and it was like a 10-15 million dollar project that I thought I was going to get, and in the last minute they ended up going with somebody else after I've done multitude of things to get that project. But that's the thing, you learn from your experiences. Since then, that like I know that whenever we start working on a big project, that it's not guaranteed. Anything can happen at any moment. Anything can affect, especially if it's like an international project. So now I learned to stay calm and not get too excited when we get a huge lead.
I think we've all been in that position where you think doing more, especially for a big project, is going to help you land it, and unfortunately, it usually doesn't. I mean, there's some other factor that comes into play, but yeah, that's a hard lesson to learn. So, I mean, I know you're director of sales and you've talked about, this particular company or project was international. So, given you work in a global industry, and you interact with people from many different cultures, how has that shaped the way you approach communications and collaboration?
Well, that was actually a very important aspect for me to observe. I want to say that I have a pretty good observation skills, and I'm always open to it, because when you work with a lot of different people from different cultures, different backgrounds, you also need to know how to bring the best out of them. And in order to do that, you need to know what is their trigger. What is their trigger that you can motivate them, because not everybody's motivated the same way. Obviously you could say money is a motivator. Sure, money is always a motivator, but that's not enough. Money is not the only motivator. Right. Then at that point, observing those people, working with those people, you need to understand what's their trigger in terms of motivation. With someone, it could be just food, but with someone, taking them to a concert, or with someone just giving them a ticket to something that they really like or really enjoy, like culturally or whatever that they had in their background. It's just that the only way to do that is that you need to talk to those people. You need to sit down, you need to have a chat outside of work, basically, to understand, to learn about them. And then based on what you learn, you make a mental note of that. And then, when the time is right, whatever you can provide, you provide that. It could be a bottle of whiskey that they like, or, it could be, like I said, food that they like. So anything. So those little things, I feel like really, it may seem like a little thing, but they do go a long way. They do build the trust. They build the relationship, and it's not something that you do at once, because you always, constantly look for those areas that you can motivate people more and get the best out of them.
Yeah, I've also found in the new way of working that it may not be something tangible. It might be flexibility.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone's child is sick for a couple days during the week, just tell them not to worry about it. If they want to get caught up on the weekend, that's fine. If not, next week.
Yeah.
Those little things, tangible or intangible, are so important. So for professionals early in their careers, what advice would you give about building strong professional relationships?
Early career. Well, you learn by experience. You got to make
Yeah,
mistakes.
partly.
You got to put yourself in awkward situations. Observe the room, how people are acting, what people are saying. You don't have to be the one to say the first word. Just take a step back, look around you. Whenever I enter a room, I always think that, okay, you always need to enter the room by thinking that there's going to be a smarter person than me in this room. You're never, don't assume that you're the smartest person in the room just because, you're fresh out of college and then you have all these knowledge and, you learn so much and, you think that you're going to change the world. Hopefully you do. That's, we all want to change the world.
Eventually.
Yeah,
So
eventually. Yeah. But I mean, it really helped me to, so to say, like when I enter somewhere in my early career, just shut my mouth, watch, learn, observe, see how people are acting, how people are reacting. And then by doing so, you're going to see the shortcomings. You're going to see the areas that you can come in to fix those. And then that really goes a long way with your managers, with your higher ups, because they do see that, well, like this person came up with a good idea. But the only way to come up with a good idea is that really observe and understand the entire process, because everything's a chain reaction in any business. Something that happens in the warehouse can affect accounting, can affect marketing. But if you don't get to the bottom of it, you're never going to know where the shortcoming is.
Exactly. So, Baran, this has been a really enjoyable conversation about the role relationships play in business and design. I love your attitude and your style. It feels very real to me. So I appreciate that. Before we wrap up, where is the best place for listeners to learn more about AKDO, and where can people connect with you personally?
They can go to our website, www.akdo.com. We have all of our social media accounts as well. And then, through there, they can reach out to me. We're a small team here. I'm reachable. My door is always open.
Where can they find you? LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, they can find me on LinkedIn. Yes, that would be the best way to do so. Yeah.
Okay, great. We'll include those links in the show notes. I always like to close with each episode with a reflective question. When you look back on your career, who is one person who had lasting impact on how you approach relationships and leadership today? I know you mentioned your uncle and your wife. So if those are the two, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, those are really the two, but obviously I gotta give it to my parents as well, my mom, my dad, because all this starts at early childhood, like the values you learn from your family is what shapes you. And the stronger family you have, the easier for the person to succeed. So I really truly appreciate all the hard work they put in me, the bearing up with me when I was a kid. So as any kid, I was also not the calmest or not the most easygoing kid. So I appreciate their patience and all the values they put in me. Yeah.
That's awesome. And no child is always easy. Um,
Yes.
if there's one takeaway from today's conversation, I think it's great projects, great companies, and great careers are rarely built alone. They're built through relationships, trust, and collaboration. Baran, thank you for joining us today. And to our listeners, thank you for spending time with us. I look forward to being in good company with you again next time.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks for listening to In Good Company, where relationships drive results, with Lisa Kilray. Be sure to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, stay connected and keep building relationships that drive results.